My two married friends were both telling me they sleep in separate beds and separate rooms from their spouses, and it's amazing. They both said their wives could sleep because they snore too much, and one guy has gastrointestinal issues and passes gas during the night, which his wife also did not appreciate. I am not married, so it is not an issue for me. I think sleep is extremely important. Do many of you out there do the same? Story 1. Just popping in to say if you all are snoring that badly, it might be time to get a sleep study. Obstructive sleep apnea is no joke and is fixable. Story 2. Together for almost 21 years, sleeping separately for the last 6 or so. I was pretty resistant to it at first, but her sleep deprivation and increasing sleep deficit were going to ruin our marriage. She is an incredibly light sleeper. Like, it's ridiculous. I'm not unfit or overweight, but I snore a lot if I have any alcohol. We have no children and enjoy a drink on the weekends. I talk in my sleep, often loudly and at length. I thrash. I've kneed her in the thigh and kind of elbowed her in the head. She has poor circulation. I apparently generate a lot of heat internally. We live somewhere that gets very cold in winter. For her to be comfortable in bed, she needs so much heating, electric blanket, heated room, super thick duvet, that I would wake up completely soaked in sweat, having to lay a towel down on the soaked sheet. Separate rooms saved our marriage. No joke. In the morning, I'm typically up first, so if I want snuggles, I message her so she sees it when she wakes up. If she wants snuggles, she calls me in. It's nice to have my own space too, and I know she feels the same. Sleeping in the same bed is okay for short stints, so if someone is visiting overnight or if we're on holiday, then it's fine for the most part. Story 3. We do not, but my parents slept in completely separate rooms all my life and were happily married for 35 years until my mother passed away a few years ago. My mother needed a pitch-black room to fall asleep. She had a digital clock, which to me was not bright at all, and she would cover it at night and generally went to bed early. My father was a night owl and used the television to fall asleep, so their sleep routines were completely different. It can definitely work well for some people. Story 4. I have been told by some home builders that there has been an increase in the number of homes being built with 2 master bedrooms because this situation is becoming much more common. My wife and I have different work schedules, so we sleep in different rooms to avoid waking each other up because sleep is important. Story 5. We used to sleep in separate rooms because I snore. I thought stopping drinking would help, but it did not. Losing weight? No. I finally got a sleep study done and was diagnosed with obstructive sleep apnea. Once I started thinking about it, I realized my dad's parents slept separately my whole life. He snored too. I bet he had sleep apnea as well. Doctors gave me a continuous positive airway pressure device. Took a little getting used to, but I love it. I don't snore anymore. I sleep great. My blood pressure is no longer high and the doctors took me off the medication. I expect my A1C level is down as well, but we will see at my physical this year. Sleeping in the same bed as my wife is much better for me, so I'm very happy all around. You should tell your boys to look into it. Even if they keep sleeping separately, sleep apnea can cause serious health problems both now and in the future. Story 6. My wife was really against it at first, but now she loves it because we can both move around without hitting each other. Story 7. We do. I have sleep apnea and snore loudly. She somehow manages to spread out and take up the biggest bed ever. Yet I remember sleeping comfortably in a twin bed with a guest in college. It is just easier, my point being. We both are more well-rested. We have taken vacations sharing one bed, but we are usually exhausted from the day by the time we lay down. Story 8. Married for 20 years and usually start the day together. But I have my own bed in the guest room where I move because I get up early. It is the best. Story 9. Separate rooms for about 35 years now and cannot go back. It started with me being a shift worker and having a new baby, but we have kept it up ever since. We both have our own bathrooms as well, so there is no conflict between us. Even when booking hotels, we must have separate beds. I need a noisy environment and night lights, while my wife needs absolute silence and darkness. I use a 30-pound weighted blanket, and my wife sleeps under a light sheet. I am a night owl, staying up well after midnight most nights, while she struggles past 9:30 p.m. Sleep is important to both of us. And this just works. Story 10. Dude, it was a game changer for me. Of course, I love cuddling and sex, but my girlfriend and I are complete opposites. I am an early riser and she is a night owl. It just was not working. Having our own bed and space is incredible. I will never go back. Story 11. Been married 25 years. We have 2 queen beds that are literally pushed up next to each other. It's amazing. We each have our own space, bed, sheets, and blankets, but we also cruise over to each other's side for cuddles and intimacy. We both use continuous positive airway pressure machines, and it is just much easier this way, along with her liking the bed warmer and me liking it cooler. When we first lived together, we slept in a single bed and synchronized our rolling over in the night for many years. That was great then, and this is great now. Over time, you just adapt and find what works for both of you to get a good night's sleep. What you like now might not be what you like later, and that's okay. Story 12. Married 28 years here. My wife has chronic acid reflux issues and sometimes needs to sleep sitting up. I snored loudly until I was diagnosed with sleep apnea and started using a continuous positive airway pressure machine. We now have 2 adjustable twin beds, and we are both much happier. Snoring is never just snoring. Ask your doctor about a sleep study. Story 13. We have separate bedrooms. My husband snores loudly, and I have severe insomnia. I miss the spontaneous cuddles but not the bad moods that come from neither of us sleeping well. Our relationship is better because we are not sleep deprived. Story 14. We have 2 children and typically sleep in the same bed. When one of us gets sick, I go to the guest room so that one person can still function to ensure the house keeps operating. Story 15. If you snore, get a sleep test and continuous positive airway pressure. It does not matter how old you are. It is life-changing. Story 16. I used to sleep with my wife. She got pregnant with our last child and went from purring like a kitten to snoring like a loud diesel generator almost overnight. I have been sleeping on the sofa for 3 years since, and it is amazing. She gets a good night's sleep, I get a good night's sleep, and I can stay up much later than before to watch films and sports. I always go up to tuck her in and have a bit of quality time, then we go our separate ways. It was really strange at first because we worried it would distance us, but it had quite the opposite effect. Story 17. My partner and I sleep in separate beds whenever one of us is sick, stressed, or has a different sleep schedule. It is nice to be in the same bed, which is our default, but we also sleep apart often. Sleeping separately helps us stay better rested, which ultimately keeps us happier, healthier, and makes life easier. Story 18. No. Almost 20 years together now. We slept apart for just over a week when my wife had coronavirus. We hated it. I know it works for some people, but not for us. Story 19. Married for more than 20 years, we have had separate bedrooms for at least 15 of them. I like it completely silent, need the heating blanket on high all year round, and prefer the sun to wake me in the morning, so no blinds or curtains are drawn. My wife likes the room to be very cold, with blackout curtains, noise machines, and no covers. We also tend to wake at different times, especially on weekends, with me getting up about an hour earlier. Respecting each other's sleep habits goes a long way towards staying happy. Why suffer discomfort for half your life just because society somehow thinks it is a rule that you must sleep together in the same bed? Waking up rested is far more beneficial to a relationship than waking up bitter because she snores or he gets up 6 times a night. Plus, no shared closets. Story 20. We do, and it happened kind of by accident. I fell asleep in the spare room when we got a new mattress. It turns out I like the firmer mattress much better. He prefers the softer one. I am a very light sleeper, awake at 5 a.m., and my husband stays up late and snores. I was cranky all the time because I was not getting quality sleep. Now we have separate rooms and are more intimate than we were before because I am not as stressed or tired. It has been fabulous. Story 21. Not married, but my last long-term partner of 8 years and I slept in separate beds. I am an exceptionally light sleeper, and she snored. I need to be up early for work, and she stays up until 2 or 3 every night and works second shift jobs. Our sleep preferences and schedules were simply incompatible. Honestly, I would probably never sleep in the same bed with a partner on a regular basis again. Story 22. My partner and I are considering separate beds. We both spread out in our sleep, and our space cannot comfortably fit a king-size bed. Story 23. We always start in the same bed, and then I leave and go to the guest room as soon as my partner starts snoring. Story 24. Honestly, the idea of separate rooms has grown on me over the years. We would both have our own spaces, but we could also have sleepovers too. Story 25. My partner and I have been sleeping in separate beds for just over 4 years now. I am a type 1 diabetic, and I have devices that will go off at night for various reasons. It was waking her up when she was pregnant with our second child. We decided to continue this arrangement afterwards, and it works great for us. Story 26. We traded our king-size bed for a split king, which gave us each our half. That solves the crowding issue. She puts the head and foot up just enough to remind me where the boundary is. But if it is flat, it is usually an invitation to cuddle. Story 27. We do. It started when our now 6-year-old was born, so at least one of us could get a good night's sleep. We just decided to keep it that way. We both have different sleep habits and snore, so this works better. We spend plenty of time together while awake, so it works for us. Story 28. I sleep on a second mattress next to my wife and children's beds. Previously, we tried sleeping together, but the baby would kick me out. A firm camping mattress on the floor is what I used for almost a year, and to be honest, I can't sleep in a soft bed anymore. It's like camping all year round. My back loves it. Story 29. I tried desperately to convince my wife to try this. We had different sleep schedules. She did not like to cuddle while sleeping. We preferred different temperatures. I liked to fall asleep to noise while she preferred silence. She would never agree. She could never come up with a counterargument besides, "It is weird." Many nights I accidentally fell asleep on the couch just to have my preferred sleeping setup. Story 30. My parents have slept in separate rooms for over 30 years. He snores and she is an angry light sleeper. Probably saved their marriage. It is kind of cute watching them say goodnight to each other all sweet-like. And then he goes upstairs to his room. Story 31. He works hard, so I want him to be rested. I snore loudly, kick him, and chase him across the bed until he has no room. I fall asleep listening to books on tape and stay up later than he does. All of this annoys him, so I have my own bedroom, where he stripped the ugly wallpaper and painted it for me. I love it. Story 32. Not married, but I live with my girlfriend. We do not share the same mattress. We have 2 twin mattresses next to each other. We also have separate duvets. Story 33. The only people I have seen criticize are those who have never tried it. I am not sure if it would be my preference, but personal space is important. One of my most reliable indicators for a relationship that will fail is when they always have to do everything together at all times. That has never failed me. So if anything, this might be a good idea. Or at least having a spare room for an as-needed or desired purpose. Story 34. I will take the guest bedroom when my lungs get bad and I start coughing. Like now. Story 35. My wife and I have been happily divorced for years. It is the best thing that ever happened to our marriage, honestly, and people who criticize it can mind their own business. Story 36. We had to stop because she was too selfish in bed. Literally, not figuratively. She would force me to the edge of a king-sized mattress, obviously signaling that she wanted to cuddle, and then complain that she was too hot to be touched. She would steal covers and then get angry at me when I took them back. I had to ask her to leave the room. Story 37. We have rearranged the bedroom, and I am going to try sleeping next to her again. The reason we started sleeping separately was because of snoring from both of us. Since our son was born, I have become a light sleeper. If she gets up during the night, it wakes me up too, and I have a tough time going back to sleep. She also likes to fall asleep with the television on, while I need complete quiet. On a recent trip, we slept together for a week and had no problems, so we decided to try again. Story 38. My wife and I have been married for almost 25 years and have been sleeping in different beds and rooms for 6 to 9 months. I used to snore and keep her awake due to untreated sleep apnea at the time. She prefers staying up all night watching movies, scrolling through social media, and chatting with internet friends. Even when she sleeps, she needs the television on in the background and a side light on. Needless to say, there were many sleepless nights or nights with poor sleep quality for both of us. Since moving into a separate room and using a continuous positive airway pressure device, my sleep quality has drastically improved. Honestly, if I had known it would make such a big difference, I would have done it years ago. I am much happier with the situation, and she seems to prefer sleeping with the dog anyway. So, I guess it is a win-win. Story 39. My wife likes it at 60 degrees Fahrenheit and to sleep under 5 thick blankets. She uses 2 heating pads under all those blankets. I like to sleep at about 70 degrees Fahrenheit with just a sheet. We compromised for a few years. The room was 60 degrees, and I felt smothered under lots of blankets. I am up at 4:30 a.m. for work, and she wakes up after 10 a.m. I am ready for bed at 9 p.m., and she is still going strong after 1 a.m. For my sanity and to get better sleep consistency, I sleep in a different room. We found a compromise. She got what she wanted, and I found a different place to sleep. Story 40. It depends on the night. We often run on different schedules, so it is nice knowing I am not waking her up by coming to bed late, or vice versa. Story 41. I think doing this might have saved a prior relationship. She and I had very different sleep schedules. She starts yawning at 8:30 p.m. and is in bed by 9 p.m., waking up bright and chipper at 5:30 a.m. I am most productive from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. and sleep in until 10 a.m. every day when my work schedule allows. Having separate rooms would have made this much easier. Story 42. When my girlfriend and I moved in, we had to set up separate bedrooms. I think she slept in her bed about 3 times. The biggest thing that helps us sleep together is having 2 separate blankets. It is life-changing. Story 43. We share a king bed with individually adjusted sides and our 2 small dogs. The dogs are spoiled, but we love it and have no issues. Story 44. I do. I have been with my wife for over 10 years, and she radiates heat during the night. It is not a big deal or a sign of an unhealthy relationship. Story 45. My husband is both a very light sleeper and snores like a jackhammer. If I wake in the night, it takes cuddles from him to get back to sleep. I am a very grumpy and clumsy, tired person, so I have started wearing earplugs. It is the best of both worlds. I could not sleep in another room. Story 46. Not separate beds, but separate blankets. My wife likes to burrito, and I do not like to have to fight for my blanket, so separate blankets work great. Story 47. We do, and my husband will not admit it. He sleeps on the couch. I actually want him in the bed a lot of the time, but we have very different sleep styles. He will not admit he is not in the bed and will not sleep in the spare room bed. It's crazy. We have a whole bed he can sleep in, but he will not. Story 48. Male, 42, married. My wife and I do most things together except sleep in the same bedroom. Our schedules are very different. She can fall asleep in a few minutes and sleep a full 9 hours. It takes me hours to fall asleep, and I get about 4 broken hours of sleep each night. We meet in each other's spaces for sex, then go about our day. On rare days off, we binge watch TV together in the living room or go window shopping. It's perfect. We have no children, so it's just great. Story 49. My spouse likes the room cold. In order for me to sleep, I need layers of clothes and covers. He is also a light sleeper, so if I turn around or move my legs, it wakes him up. I literally have to bundle up and not move all night. Now he sleeps in our spare bedroom. We still cuddle before bed, but he waits until I am sleepy. Then he leaves. Story 50. We have separate bedrooms and plan to keep it that way. We sleep together in the bigger bed a few times a week, depending on the weather and temperature, as we have very different sleeping temperature needs. We are also introverts and like having our own spaces, which we can close the other out of if needed. Story 51. We've been together for 17 years. We both slept in separate rooms for 3/4 of that time. When we finally started sharing a room again a few years ago, it was nice to have the closeness. I feel like it helped our relationship a little. However, I still would ask him to leave several nights a week as soon as his snoring started. It's good for him because he can fall right back to sleep. I can't, and I don't fall asleep easily to begin with. So once he starts snoring, I tell him to go downstairs. This gives us time to be physically intimate more easily than before. When we started the night in separate rooms, it was harder because one or both of us would fall asleep and not want to get up to go to the other's room. However, it did allow for distance to grow. I think it's good to lie with the person for a little bit and then go your separate ways. Story 52. My wife is going through menopause, and I snore. I thought it would be better to sleep in another room so she does not kick me when she cannot sleep. Story 53. My husband wants to sleep with the window open, even in winter with the shutter half open. He snores, grinds his teeth, and moves around a lot. He is a light sleeper. I need total darkness. I am always cold, I snore, and I move around a lot too. I am a light sleeper. Even though we both use earplugs, it is still too hard to get a good night's sleep without waking up frequently. Our sleep styles differ too much. We have been sleeping apart for 2 years now, and it is much better that way. Of course, people are always puzzled because it seems taboo to sleep apart, with comments like, they do not love each other anymore. But we just want to sleep. Sleep quality plays a significant role in mood. Story 54. Hard rule in our house. We always sleep in the same bed and go to bed together at the same time. No pets or children are allowed in the bed. This is our space. Story 55. We do almost everything except have separate beds, separate blankets, and completely separate pillow arrangements. Usually, we sleep back to back. I have friends who are very happy with separate rooms. One of them is for snoring reasons, and the other is for sleeping at different hours without disturbing each other. Story 56. I will start the night in the same bed always, but I will move if she has to wake me up even once for snoring. We both get better sleep, which means we are both more pleasant to be around during the day. Story 57. My parents did this. It would be wonderful to have separate bedrooms. My wife and I have different hobbies, and I work from home frequently. I also experience insomnia occasionally. I believe having your own space, even when married and both introverted, is healthy. Story 58. I could never. There is the occasional couch sleep if I am having trouble, and sleep schedules are not always the same, but officially sleeping apart is one of the worst things I can imagine. I need that intimacy. I guess it works for some people, but for me it would be, if not the first sign, certainly the biggest sign that the end is near. Story 59. Separate beds, same room. She is my first good, long-term girlfriend, and I have never slept separately from any girlfriend before. Coincidence? The statistics speak for themselves. Story 60. Been married for 12 years. We snore a lot, especially when work is more demanding. Sometimes we go to bed with gassy stomachs. We are fine. Maybe sleeping in separate beds or rooms works for some, but I think it does not work for others. Just sharing. Story 61. In my last relationship, we sometimes slept together and sometimes in different beds in different rooms because I did not get a good rest when sleeping next to someone or even in the same room. So, when I had a lot of work or important tasks, we slept separately. Story 62. I know a few couples who do not share a bed, and it sounds like heaven. I love sleeping with my partner, but I am a bad sleeper. I toss and turn a lot and pull the covers. If he ever suggests sleeping in a different bed, I will not be offended. Story 63. For 28 years, we have shared the same bed and the same bed sheets. I hate sleeping away from her, such as when I am on a trip. I used to snore but now use a continuous positive airway pressure machine, which is worth its weight in gold. She will snore sometimes, but I usually can ignore it after a while. The only change we discuss is having separate bed sheets because she likes to steal them from me, and I complain about it. Story 64. My wife and I rarely share a bedroom. I snore and she is a light sleeper. I go to bed earlier and wake up earlier than she does, and she really likes to sleep in on weekends. It has been difficult because there are no extra rooms available in our house. But next week our daughter is moving out, so we are setting up her room for me. I am looking forward to that. I do feel like we miss out on some intimacy, but overall we both sleep better. Story 65. My wife and I have very different schedules because we both work in healthcare. It is always a nice surprise if I wake up and she is next to me. We take turns sleeping together, but we try our best even though one of us often ends up knocked out on the couch after a long day. Story 66. 50% of the time I snore. She will literally stay up all night scrolling through social media with her phone on full brightness. She cannot stand my snoring. I tolerate the brightly lit room. Comes in waves, however, and it is directly tied to intimacy. During periods when we are having a lot of sex, tolerating each other's little annoyances is much easier. When we go for long stretches without sex, I sleep in the other room. Her complaint was always that a queen-size bed was not big enough to sleep properly. She is 5 feet 8 inches tall and weighs 150 pounds. However, once we bought a king-size bed, nothing changed. An onion is a lot like a marriage. Homer Simpson. Story 67. My husband and I sometimes sleep in different rooms. I snore badly and he does as well, even though he won't admit it. If I can't fall asleep, I just go out and sleep on the recliner. I could sleep on the couch, but I find it more relaxing to be somewhat elevated in the recliner. Story 68. My partner and I both like cuddles too much to sleep separately. She actually has trouble sleeping alone now since she got used to sleeping with me. She will complain about it if I am out of town. Story 69. Coming up on 13 years, last year or two after I had surgery, I have kept to the spare room. I go to bed later, wake up earlier, prefer a sound machine, and make an unbelievable amount of noise in my sleep. My wife, on the other hand, prefers silence and cannot breathe well at night with a sound machine, and wakes up to every little sound. We both sleep better. Story 70. I fall asleep on the couch a few times per week, but only once or twice have I slept in an actual separate bed. Story 71. I haven't had to do it in a while, but when I am working any kind of unusual shift, I sleep in our guest room because it is quiet and dark. I hate being away from her, but it's the only way either of us can get any sleep when I'm on different hours. I would never do it by choice if we were on the same schedule. I sleep so much better with her in the bed with me. We were very tired after a wedding last night and fell asleep peacefully next to each other. Story 72. I send my partner outside my bedroom because he snores and I am an ultra-light sleeper. He sleeps in the other bedroom if it is free or in the hall when we have guests over. I resent him when he does not get good sleep, and sleeping alone in my room has prevented that. This also lets him wake up easily to open the door for our cook or maid early in the morning without disturbing my sleep. Story 73. If my partner and I can ever afford a place together, separate bedrooms is the plan. He cares for his father, and between us we have 4 cats. So we need a good-sized place to accommodate all of us. This just isn't feasible when a 2-bedroom, 1-bathroom place costs over $500,000 where we live. Story 74. I cannot sleep well without my wife with me. Mornings are cuddle time before I start work. I would not want a separate room. I like her too much. Story 75. I have been together with my significant other for a bit over 5 years. We have slept in different rooms for about 4 years now. At first, we took turns sleeping separately for our firstborn child, who had colic. Later, we had our second child, who was a bad sleeper. I slept in the kids' room for about half a year. Then my significant other took over for reasons I cannot remember. We still sleep in separate rooms because I snore heavily, and it turned out to be mild sleep apnea. I have not treated it yet, but I am working on it. Story 76. I've always said my husband and I would never sleep in separate beds. I loved nighttime cuddles and the safety of having my person close by. 2 children later, who love sleeping with their mother, there is no room for their father in the bed. For him, it's one of those, oh darn, I guess I'll just sleep all by myself, alone, with no one disturbing my sleep, kind of attitudes. I know that our children will not want me forever, and it is one of those arrangements that were completely unexpected but have worked best for our family. Story 77. We do. I work third shift and she had a 9 to 5, so she usually had another hour of sleep by the time I was ready for bed. It is really nice if you have the space. Story 78. Sleep in a separate room. I have done this for the last 5 to 6 years due to my sleep apnea, and my wife, who I have been with for 11 years, is an extremely light sleeper. It started because of my snoring, but now the continuous positive airway pressure machine's airflow still keeps her awake. Oh well, it means I can sprawl out across my entire bed. Story 79. Different rooms sound awful and remove the closeness that is the main joy of partnership. I would not be with someone I would not spend every night in the same bed with for the rest of my life. Story 80. I love sleeping with my wife and tend to think that sleeping apart is the beginning of the end of a romantic relationship. On the other hand, I know how well I sleep when either my wife or I am out of town, and I think that would be great too. Story 81. I had shoulder surgery late last year and slept in our guest room because I thought I would be up a lot. I am still there until we have guests. Story 82. I have not slept properly for nearly 20 years due to my wife's snoring. I made a new rule that as soon as I hear one snore, I move to the sofa. I now sleep on the sofa most nights, and the bags under my eyes have completely gone. Story 83. Never. We have done it for short periods, but as a couple we need to be together. Separate sleeping might be convenient, but it pushes us apart. Story 84. I suggest separate covers at least. My wife does not sleep separately, but getting our own sheets and blankets was a huge improvement. Story 85. I don't even think we would both sleep more comfortably. But that is what marriage and long-term relationships are about. You take your partner's worst and deal with it out of love. I snore too much, so my partner would sleep much better alone. She hogs the bed, so I would sleep much better alone. But this is what it is about. Dealing with it because you love them and want to sleep next to them. Story 86. All the women chiming in here with their husbands' excuses on why they do not sleep together is funny. They simply do not want to sleep next to you. Story 87. A lot of people use snoring as a reason to have separate bedrooms. However, loud snoring is a health issue that needs to be addressed. My wife and I are thin and both use continuous positive airway pressure machines. Consult a doctor before deciding to sleep in separate bedrooms. Story 88. Sleeping in a separate room seems too much like a punishment. How are you supposed to flirt at night, cuddle, have casual conversations, or have late-night talks if you go off alone every night? This would definitely hurt my marriage. Story 89. I do. We have been together for 45 years. We both snore and have small beds. We also sleep on different schedules. I have a needy cat that wakes me up 3 to 4 times a night, and my partner would hate that. Story 90. Perfect for when another woman comes over and you can sneak her into your bedroom without your spouse noticing. That's it. Yes, I snore too much. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.